must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
It is ridiculous and it is against the laws of nature that we can have somebody sitting pretty who takes home more money than the credible entrepreneur who is doing actual production of goods and services.
We always say it as it is.
It is only in this country that when a thief is arrested, you hear elders from their tribe saying, "He is our son and he is our thief."
If you are deviant and I call you leader,
Yes.
probably you are already a leader, but you are leading in the wrong direction.
We want to see the role of the youth
Yeah.
in the security,
Yes.
governance,
Yes.
and development.
The youth that I meet and work with here, you know, we call them the millennials and X's and Y's, this and that. They don't necessarily want to live like their fathers and grandfathers,
Yes.
do business like their fathers and grandfathers. They're more independent, they're better educated, and they're the ones that are making everything move in this region.
We look at the issues, we talk about issues that impact people's lives in Africa.
The African peoples themselves continue to cheer bad leaders, and because they cheer them on, they continue to be misled.
Let me ask you, doctor, would you rather be somebody who does not enjoy so much freedom but you are rich?
Yes.
Or you'd rather be poor who you are actually imprisoned by the poverty itself?
My goal is not to come here and say, I want the majority ownership, I want to own this, I want to own that, I want to do this. My goal is we all make money and we're all happy, and I help build a big business here.
Punchline is for Africa, with Africa, from Africa.
Today, thousands and thousands of Africans and many countries in Africa have conflicts. Notably, from Libya, Cameroon, Nigeria, Biafra, and the Boko Haram, to Democratic Republic of Congo, of where we have seen a resurgence of the past military and conflicts coming back in that country. Hundreds and hundreds of people have been displaced, killed, maimed, tortured, raped, several of them dying of hunger, starvation, and other natural causes. The fighting seems not to be ending. For the sake of Libya, the Libyan recognized international government is under siege in Tripoli from another faction recognized by Egypt, France, UAE, and other countries. Whereas the one in Tripoli is recognized by the UN, it has been bombarded, has been strangulated, and many millions of Libyans are dying of hunger, lack of water. The water system has been cut off. The bombardment goes on. In Democratic Republic of Congo, we've seen more of active rebel activities returning to the region after some silence has been observed. When we come to Cameroon, we see millions and millions of Amazonians slaughtered. Yet, when you come to Biafra, again millions and hundreds of millions and millions are worried, displaced, tortured by the Buhari regime. Yet again in the north, We see Boko Haram killing, maiming, abducting, and burning down villages in the same Nigeria. When you cross over to Central African Republic, the same is the history that has littered Africa. While all these events are taking shape, Africa is silent. Africa is not making enough efforts to find a solution to what is causing the problems in Libya, in DRC, in Cameroon, in Nigeria, Biafra, and now you add in Khartoum, Sudan. As people die, the people of Africa have no answers, have no solutions. There is nothing to endear to bring an end to the conflicts that have killed Africa. We seem to be new ones manufactured, old ones reignited, encouragement coming from external powers. One power that has been seen in the shadows of all these conflicts, especially the one of Libya that has escalated in the Saharan region of Africa, is France. When you come to Democratic Republic of Congo, the same country is in the shadows. The war can be seen is France. When you come to Cameroon, in the Amazonia, the one behind that has the key to bringing peace is France. Therefore, our question as Africans, why are we silent? Why are we not saying enough is enough of the wars? Thank you. Fellow Africans, since 1957, when Ghana gained independence, there has been quite a lot of political, social, economic indicators on the African continent that show that Africa has progressed from pre-independence Africa to post-independence Africa.
Ghana, your beloved country, is free forever. From now on, there is a new African in the world. That new African is ready to fight his own battle and show that after all, the black man is capable of managing his own affairs.
66 years down the road, Africa finds itself with the first country, Ghana, having gained independence. We find ourselves still locked up, controlled, manipulated, instructed, logistically supplied, equipped by foreign powers that dictate our agenda. Africa is endowed with plenty of minerals, resources, good weather. The climate is so favorable for the growth of food enough to sustain us. But we find ourselves in countries where hunger is killing people. Hunger is killing people because most of the people have taken to arms to fight wars, conflicts. Starvation has taken the place of development. In most African countries like Sudan, South Sudan, Central African Republic, Cameroon, Nigeria, in Biafra, and the north of Nigeria there is Boko Haram, Somalia in the Horn of East Africa. We have taken to conflict instead of development. Development was the key indicator. When Kwame Nkrumah made the first speech that seek ye African political unity, economic development will come automatically, he was right. The events happening in Libya today vindicates Nkrumah, vindicates Nyerere, Sekou Toure, and Nasser, the founding fathers of our Pan-Africanism. The events happening in Central African Republic, in Congo today, as the war of rebels ranges on between the rebel and the rebels and the government and the rebels, vindicates the founding fathers of this revolution. Our independence, therefore, was only on paper. Our independence, therefore, was only in symbols. Our independence also was in signs. Our independence also was in boundaries. That we received our flags, but we never received full independence as by the word independence. Most of the 3/4 of African countries, French-speaking countries, have their budgets being done in Paris. Is that independence? The Paris government or the French government does its budgets based on how much they will get from African countries. Is that independence? Is this the Africa that you want? Is it the Africa that we must look at? Is it the Africa that we shall leave for the future generation? If the answer to you is yes, then so be it. But if the answer is no, you agree with me that this is not the Africa we want to live for the future generation. Our generations and the future generation need to find a legacy. What is the legacy that Africa and African Union will leave for the future generation? The wars ranging in Libya, in South Sudan, in Khartoum, in Mogadishu, in DRC Congo, in Amazonia, in Cameroon, Boko Haram, Mali, in Mauritania, the uprisings in Algeria, all point to one thing, that yes, we are not yet independent. We are still controlled by external forces. Thank you. reasons. Thank you very much. Good morning, viewers, wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much. Good morning, Africa. Good morning, all of you in Kenya, in Uganda, in Tanzania, in South Africa, in Ethiopia, in Cameroon, Amazonia, in Nigeria, Ghana, Togo, Gabon, Equatorial Guinea. Good morning. Are you feeling the heat of external darker forces? They seem to be moving everywhere, in every direction. There is always something going on. And a good morning back in Kenya. Good morning, all of you in East Africa, in Dar es Salaam, capital city of Pan-Africanism. Good morning in Kenya. Good morning, the leaders of this country. Thank you very much, oh God, for keeping us again so that we can speak. Without your strength, we cannot speak. Without your our prayers being heard, it's very difficult for you to make us proceed. You have heard several of our prayers. We have committed ourselves but broken the covenants. But here we are. We still want you to keep us going, keep us struggling, keep us breathing. Those who have perished and those whose families have perished, relatives, friends, we pray for you in Africa and we pray for you all in the world. Wherever you are, peace, peace, peace is the only way forward. Without peace, we cannot achieve anything that we want as human beings. Back in the studio, I have none other than the German lady, all the way from Game, but German. Good morning, Miriam.
All right, good morning to you, Dr.
People said we don't greet hands, and yet we preach peace.
Yeah, the handshake has to be
Someone
continuous.
was telling me that I don't know, they look at us, not me.
Mm-hmm. They look at us.
Yes,
and say
there,
what?
they view. And they said some comments. Hey, it is, I said no, because for me, I'm always looking that way. Somebody said, Miriam is very serious. Have you ever seen when she's looking at you? Good morning.
Who is that?
I am going to name him. He's coming.
To recite a riot here.
Yes, he's coming on the show. He's already here now.
Okay.
Let me see whether he has that. It's coming. Good morning, Africa, wherever you are. Thank you very much. We want to start off with Kenya. We want to see the headlines first, and then the Uhuru legacy.
Yes.
So many things. The Uhuru legacy, we defend it. We shall continue to say about it until we finish, and then we shall move on. Good morning, Africa. We look at, is Kenya becoming a litigating state? Is there something that you can just sort out without litigation? What is the problem here? Are we having a problem in this country? I think we have everything. We have to run to the courts. And unfortunately, the courts are worse than sorting it out between me and you.
But President Kenyatta told us to take it to the court. So maybe we're just following the advice of the president.
Yes, the president told us we take the matter to the court. How do you take to the court, which is already corrupt? So we shall look at that also, and then we shall look at a major topic. One of the topics that we want, what is national interest? Miriam, I think you better know that. You better want, what is national interest? Many people in Africa don't know what a national interest is. What is the nation's interest? What are national interests? What are values of national interest? What are the tenets of national interest?
I think before we even understand the national interest, then we have to be patriotic enough to love our nation enough. And I think that is the basis.
Now just spare
Yes.
it.
Yes.
You are coming, spare it there. Just hold it, hold the fire. And then when we come back, we shall again look at what is ailing Africa. Do you think wherever you are in Africa, in any country in Africa, is Mr. George Soros' money creating problems in Africa? Today, I am gonna table country number 1. You know, I go with facts. Country number 1 is going to be tabled. Get a pen and see how George Soros is more deadly than the nuclear weapon.
The one Iran is really having right now.
Yes.
They're threatening US with this, like it's a carrot they're dangling.
Yes.
You better come back to the table or else.
So there you are.
It's dangerous, the nuclear weapon.
There you are. Thank you very much, viewers. And let's hope that things are going to work the way they work. God bless us. Let's take a break and come back. The creation of African Continental Free Trade Area is a step forward for the African integration, and it is very much welcome both by Africans in Africa and those in diaspora. The creation of such is the only second one since the formation of World Trade Organization in 1994, and is only compared to the size that can compete if it works in Africa. 1.3 billion people will benefit out of this free trade that has been signed and endorsed by 54 heads of state. After several years of up and down in the valleys of Africa and the mountains of Africa, we finally came to a conclusion that this has to happen, which brings us to the dream of Kwame Nkrumah when he said, at least building a block by block, Africa will one day unite to stand as a united continent. But are the members of this African Union committed? Will they implement what they have decided? Today, in several countries, we see signs of xenophobia, the lack of patriotism amongst the younger generation, the lack of employment, the unemployment, the mistreatment of the young, the youth, those who need jobs, the corruption, the amount of corruption that has eaten the entire continent of Africa could hamper the free trade that we are anticipating on the continent. What measures, therefore, have African heads of state put in place to ensure that those who lag behind, those who drop out, must be penalized? We should not sign the document for the sake of documents, but we should sign documents for practical reasons that we shall implement what Africa needs today. Can it happen in our times? Is it going to happen? Is integration a mirage? Is integration worth going to happen? Will it happen? What has happened about the present blocks that have started integration process? What have they done? Is Africa integrating? Thank you.
Welcome back, and this is Good Morning Africa show coming to you all the way from Kenya's capital here in Nairobi. Of course, we're just taking a short breather because we needed to continue our next conversation with some evidence here, and it's here, of course, if you look at our topics of the day, Uhuru legacy trend, is Kenya becoming a litigating state, and also what is national interest. And on our topical discussion, we look at, is George Soros money disrupting peace in Africa? But right now we're just going through the news making headlines in Kenya and what's really making headlines in Kenya today. And Doctor, there's a lot of things here when you look at the Daily Nation. I think we were just talking about this before we even started the show.
Yes.
The story of Esther Arunga, it's very sad. She's facing 25 years in prison.
She should get more.
Oh, no.
That is the story that is making headlines in Kenya. She should get more. 25 is very little.
I don't know why I feel sorry for her.
No, I don't.
Because we cannot...
You can't kill your own son. Kill your own son.
The husband killed and she helped cover.
It's conspiracy. In fact, if it was in Britain, she could get life sentence.
So she's
lucky.
An accessory to murder.
Yes, accessory to murder is even, could be worse than murder.
And I think the most ridiculous thing is she is a lawyer by schooling, by training.
This girl,
thought, this
girl,
she was not naive to what law says.
A very beautiful young girl.
She is a black beauty.
Very beautiful black beauty. I met her here in Nairobi when I was working for Sky News. We sat down with my director of foreign news because we had wanted to recruit her to take her to Sky News. Very bright student. She was
a star here in the Kenyan
exactly.
industry, yes.
All of a sudden, this girl becomes, when I came back from London, on my way to Zimbabwe, I find a different lady. I found a different girl, changed. I called her, you come for coffee. Then she said she's very busy, she can't take up that appointment in London.
I should join that church already, the funny church.
I think she was beginning to join that church. And these guys gave me even ticket money. They said, put down the ticket, let her go. The visa, we get it. Sky News gets visa anywhere. You get it, let her come to London. Believe me or not, I came back from Zimbabwe, pass again, Nairobi. There's a time, there was a place called in Westlands where people used to have a drink. Is it at the pavement? Called it the pavement. When I saw this girl, I said, is this the girl we want to employ in Sky News?
She was different already.
Yes.
Even her thought process.
Yes, different and talking differently with very awkward people. Okay. Awkward in the manners.
She became awkward.
Yes. Over a sudden, I said, I called my friend editor. I said, I think that there is another one that we would like to poach. It's like a football. You poach.
Yeah.
Media is like a football. You look at that one, poach, take her. So we wanted to take another one who is reading news in a China television station. The one from Meru. There's a Meru lady.
Is it Caribe or who?
Yes. You're talking. She was in Nation
at that time.
Not at that time.
Just starting.
Yes, very flamboyant, very well organized. So where I said I recommended for Maribe to be taken by my Mzungu friend editor, who wanted people who know something about Africa, so that they don't have two people interpreter and telling you when you are on the anchor.
It balances out.
Yes. This lady let me down. The next time I met her, we bumped into each other. Sorry, goodbye.
It's okay. All right. So here on the Daily Nation, the story that we've been trying to understand, it's very sad here because Esther Arunga was one of the TV stars and she was, a respected business anchor here in Kenya before she suddenly, resigned from her job and, left and joined a certain church that was even allegedly was a cult. But of course, the leaders of that church came out to refute that. And now she's facing 25 years in prison in Australia, where they're currently residing together with the husband. So I'll just read a caption of that. And the Daily Nation says, a confession, a dead child, a husband facing homicide charges and questions about her mental state. Can this one Once high-flying lawyer come journalist wiggle out of her biggest challenge yet. So she cannot be naive to the law because she is a lawyer to start with. So when you want to cover up something and you already have the knowledge of the law, you cannot use that as an excuse. Because you cannot say you don't understand. You understand. You are a lawyer. But in the name of love. In the name of
Miriam, look at me.
In the name of
I am telling you, when I saw that lady,
yes.
viewers, sorry about the interruption, because this was a call from one of the lawyers who has just seen, was asking me about something. Now, 25 years, very little. Wamufunge maisha. Sasa anakuja hapa kufanya nini after 25?
Because she was an accessory. She's not the real mother.
No, the accessory is worse. Accessory means you prepare the chopping board. Ndio wewe unaleta chopping board, unaweka namna hivi, kata. If it was London,
A life sentence.
She would not come out. Accessory to terrorism. It is better they call you a terrorist, but not accessory, Miriam. It's very bad.
Like the ones who are let go sometimes in our Kenyan courts who
Yes.
are accessory to terrorism.
So we lost a beautiful young Kenyan,
Talented, yes.
talented Kenyan, very well organized, a sister-in-law, a brother to brothers. And it goes back to my core thing of satanic versions, satanic churches. There are churches here, the states in Africa are not looking at the churches. The churches here have become commercial. This girl was so good until she was taken into by some people.
Sort of a religious.
Instead of educating her, they did not educate her. They started, indoctrinating her with things that demon wapi? Demon wacha ikuje. Tutapigana na demon. Look at us. Jesus.
She ran away from her home.
Look here. Yes. He turned on the father. We fight demons every day. When you sleep on the bed, demons come.
Which bed has demons? I'm not going to.
No. When you sleep at night, what happens?
So you pray before you sleep?
Yes.
The demons will not come.
Let them come. Let God fight them, not me. All the demons.
Okay, Bishop Matanga, slow down.
Yes. I don't want to start preaching. Demon ya what?
We're about to turn this into a conventional rally.
Yes. Demons can be catered by God.
Yes.
He's the one who said you will wake up tomorrow. Tonight you are going. Tomorrow you will wake up. Matanga, you will make noise. You make noise and tell people devolution is a problem. If you bring in warlords, political warlords, look at the political warlords on the streets. Big men walking in the streets. Where is the money that they collect from the market, from the parking? Where is it?
They have two receipt books.
The government gives you what? And then what? Government gives you hot air. We don't have, the government does not have money. What will it give you? Hot air. And then you spend 100 million shillings to go to the lawyer. You are paying Orengo 100 million shillings. Wow. This is fraud.
My senator is doing very well.
I don't know.
100 million he's been given?
100 million to represent them in the Supreme Court. Viewers,
I should probably start
the state of anarchy, not anarchy, the state of confusion is here. Devolution is supposed to move with evolution. Don't separate the two. If you have gone to school, listen to me. Otherwise, don't listen. In fact, if you have not gone to school, don't listen, because you might not learn. Devolution moves with evolution. What the governors are doing are moving one of them very fast. That's why there is a crisis.
So which one is being moved very fast? The evolution or are they even evolving at all?
No structures. For example, ask these governors, you're asking for this money, show us what you did. Those are what you have moved. The word political devolution has moved so fast. Sisi tuko na oparanya yetu. Oparanya baba, oparanya. Waititu mama. This is ours.
Waititu paid for South Sudan peace.
You see? But we have not moved the structures that the evolution that check oparanya.
We need accountability. We need accountability.
Take it from there. And I don't know. I will ask for permission again. I have to see my lawyer and somehow and come back.
Have you gotten yourself into trouble?
Yes, because of
devolution or evolution.
No, why I've got myself into trouble,
yes,
my dear sister, is that sometime some stupid man whom I paid school fees for in London went and accused me in court.
Are we talking about Wajuka?
The gold, yes.
Okay.
A man whom I removed from grave digging. He was a grave digger in Camden.
Okay.
Digging graves for Wazungu to be buried.
It's a very respected profession there.
Yeah, thank you. But it haunts you. At least I've never dug a grave. The man has taken me now, and he has accused me.
Even in the village as a young man?
Yes.
When a relative passes, I see young men coming.
You dig, they are specialists.
You help.
Yeah, we have to cut goats every day.
Okay.
To cleanse them. Yes, those grave diggers, they clean themselves, they have to cleanse them.
Really?
Yes, you are putting people in the grave every day. One of them can walk with you.
Stop it. Okay. Let's just so Halloween is still fast.
It's not Halloween, my sister. This guy took me on, and then went and got a client. Said that this thing was being talked to by everybody. The media, everybody was talking. Now, because I'm a Ugandan, he singled me out and accused me. That he wants 10 million from me. 10 million, you would take my blood, hallelujah, akiamungu. Because I don't have it. I don't have it. You take the first part, I'm coming back.
All right.
And thank you very much so that Clark will miss me. Kinangongonga of Opera. You see?
No.
People, look at it.
You have to read that again.
Chinuwamagonga.
Good.
Team Chiwamagonga wa Oparanya. Sasa they have threatened to come to the streets that they will bring 1 million march. Now, for sure, let me tell you there are questions to be asked. There is a summit which the president is the chairman. Why can't the governors, instead of walking, trying to create, to buy, what is it called?
They were in town yesterday.
Yeah, buying emotions.
Inciting the public.
Inciting the public.
Public sympathy.
Yeah. Tell us the truth.
As much as we think perhaps they need that money, but you still need accountability on what they've been spending on. And according to the Auditor General, a very few of that money they're given goes to development agendas in different countries. So we still need accountability as much as perhaps they need more money, but we still need them to be accountable. So do we take a short break? All right.
Take a short break and
we'll be right back.
Thank you. Let me.
Dr. Matanga just left. He has to, attend to something very urgently, but he is joining me in a bit. So we were just looking at the news-making headlines in Kenya this morning, and a very sad story here about Esther Runga that we just talked about, and also the other things that are happening in Kenya this morning. I saw in the Star newspaper that now, in Kenya we have the women representatives in all 47 counties. That is mandatory. The country was trying to have more women in parliament. So this, the constitution allowed for a provincial that every, county has, the women represent a post, just to increase the number of women in parliament. But now, according to the Star newspaper on page 2, it says, showdown looms in parliament between female members of parliament and their male counterparts over a radical proposal to scrape the 47 women representative seats introduced in the 2010 constitution as an affirmative action strategy. The position has become controversial. Now, critics, overwhelmingly men, have called the position useless and said it simply swells the country's wage bill. The Star has established that the Committee on Implementation and Oversight of the Constitution seeks to introduce a sunset clause rendering the seat obsolete after the next general election, and that is something that I don't think a lot of women, parliamentarians will just let go very easily. So that is a battle that has been drawn in Kenya's parliament. And I'll come back and when Dr. Matanga returns and look in depth in the rest of Kenya's news, because there's a lot that we need to talk about. The DPP and the DCI are in Dubai right now. They're still going on with investigations over the monies that was lost in the dam scandal, and also they are seeking to find information about the gold scandal that happened a few days ago. An Emirati leader there was conned in Kenya through dubious gold deal that went very sour, and he lost a lot of money. So the DPP and the DCI are over there trying to patch up details. Remember the sheikh, the leader there, refused to write a statement with the Kenyan authorities, so it was very difficult to start the investigations and see how they can help him recover these monies. So, but now the DPP and the DCI are already there, so that is something we'll look at. And also, the BBI has come out to deny proposing that the Premier's post. Remember yesterday, as I was taking you through the information, the newspaper and the show yesterday, part of, a proposal there had said that the Building of Bridges initiative had proposed Prime Minister's post that has more powers than the President. But now the BBI team has come out and said they have not even proposed a Premier, post. So I will look at that in a short while, and together with Dr. Matsanga when he returns. But right now, I would like for us to just take a look at what is making headlines in Africa this morning. Let me see the time. It is 12:45 here in Nairobi. So let me just take you through very quickly what is making headlines in Africa, and we start with Uganda, where the Ugandan's pop star turned politician Bobi Wine has said he will challenge long-time President Yoweri Museveni in the elections expected to be held in 2021. But Wine, whose real name is Changulanyi Sentamu, said he was concerned about his safety after surviving what he believes was an attempt on his life last August when his driver was shot dead in his car following an incident in which protesters threw stones at the president's motorcade. And we move to South Africa, where Jacob Zuma, the former president of South Africa, has told an inquiry into corruption allegations that he has been the victim of a character assassination, a campaign by enemies seeking his removal from power. Zuma, who resigned last year following an internal battle at the ruling African Congress, party ANC, appeared before a state commission on Monday to respond to allegations that he allowed cronies to plunder state resources and influence senior government appointments during his 9 years in office. And we go to Sudan, where scores of demonstrators in Sudan have taken to the streets of Khartoum district to protest against the killing of a civilian allegedly by paramilitaries the previous day. Riot police on Monday night looked on as a crowd waved Sudanese flags and chanted revolutionary slogans in the capital's eastern district of Burin, a center of protest since demonstrations first erupted in December, witnesses have confirmed. And in Madagascar's national football stars who enjoyed a fairy tale run at the Africa Cup of Nations have arrived home from Egypt to a big official welcome, during which they were given the rank of Knight of the Malagasy National Order. The team was also given a cash award, according to an online newspaper, News Mother. The players and coaching staff were received by President Andre Rajoelina at the Lavoloha State Palace in the capital, Antananarivo. And the United Nations says the number of people going hungry has increased for the third year running. A report from the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, and the United Nations Children's Fund, the World Food Programme, and the World Health Organization said researching the target of zero hunger by 2030 is an immense challenge. More than 820 million people worldwide are not getting enough food, with the situation most alarming in Africa, the report has added. And we go to Rwanda, where the country has added more personnel at the border between Goma in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Gisenyi in Rwanda to help screen people crossing over, Health Minister Diana Gashumba told journalists on Monday. The first Ebola case has been confirmed in Goma, a city of nearly 2 million people, which has no hard border between it and Gisenyi in Rwanda, except at the official crossing points. And we go to Nigeria, where gunmen have kidnapped Beauty Siasi, a 75-year-old mother of former Nigerian national football coach Samson Siasi. She was taken in her village in Bayelsa State, southern Nigeria, in the early hours of Monday. A family member who spoke to the BBC Pidgin said the men broke in through the back door of the apartment to grab Mrs. Siasi. And she said they had not heard from her kidnappers and have reported the incident to the police. Current Super Eagles captain Michael Obi and forward Samuel Kalu have both had their parents abducted in the past. And we go to Zambia, where Zambia's Konkola copper mines, one of the biggest employers of the country, is looking for a new investor, and many are suggesting that China, as Zambia's biggest creditor, is seen as the most likely buyer. The country's information minister, Dora Siliya, has, however, told the BBC Focus on Africa that it is not a done deal. Some Zambians have expressed their concerns about China's influence in the country, but Ms. Siliya said such fears were teething problems which will be corrected over time. And still in Zambia, and Margaret Mwanakatwe is no longer part of the Zambian government. Zambian President Edgar Lungu abruptly fired his finance minister on Sunday, as she's been replaced by Blaya Ngandu, former deputy chief of the Zambian Central Bank. The Zambian president announced its decision in a statement issued on Sunday, but did not give reasons for her dismissal. Mwanakatwe had been finance minister just over a year. And in Zimbabwe, there has been a sharp jump in Zimbabwe's annual inflation figures. Statistics agency Zimstats has said in the year from June 2018 to June 2019, prices rose on average by 176%. And for the last 12 months, from May 2018 to May 2019, the figure was at 98%. Food prices rose even faster at a rate of 252%. There are concerns there could be a return to the days when prices spiraled out of control. And in Ethiopia, Ethiopia's Amara Democratic Party, ADP, named the security advisor to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed as head of the restive Amara region on Monday after his predecessor was killed in a violent attempt to seize power there. And in Mozambique, Mozambicans will for the first time have a woman on the ballot paper when they go to the polls in October this year to vote for a president. Maria Alice Mabota, a revered human rights activist, and former president of the Mozambican Human Rights League, has filed her papers on the ticket of a number of parties. She will contest as a candidate of a coalition, the Democratic Alliance Coalition, CAD, a group of 6 parties that she is not a member of any but was chosen to run on their ticket. Democracy there in Mozambique. And we come to Kenya, where the families of 10 Kenyans convicted and sentenced for robbery with violence in Tanzania have been awarded compensation. The African Court on Human Rights and People's Rights ruled on July 4th that the families are entitled to compensation owing to the lengthy periods of time and the trial took before the 10 were convicted. The verdict was issued in a case in which Kenyans sued the Tanzanian government following the arrest in Maputo, Mozambique in 2006 and the prosecution that followed. While noting that the trial took longer than expected, they accused Tanzanian authorities of violating their human rights. And we end with Ambazonia, where an English-speaking magistrate, Justice Chi Valentine Buma, reportedly has been abducted by unidentified men who have taken him to an identified location. A video that has been making rounds on social media since Monday morning shows that the magistrate in captivity at an unknown location. A voice is heard in the video questioning the magistrate on his regular social media writings criticizing the regime when the lawyers and teachers started the strike action back in 2016. It is very difficult to authenticate the video or identify the kidnappers who are speaking in broken English as well as French without clear accent. So that is the latest this morning across Africa. Remember, if there's anything out there that you feel that we should know about, please feel free to write to us on the comment section, and I will be very happy to read your contribution. And Agwot, one here, you're saying Sudan, a former regime remnants still controlling the country and killing innocent. When will the region stand with the people of old Sudan in such a situation under the Janjaweed militia? Thank you so much for your question, Agwot, and thank you for tuning in this morning here in it's morning here in Nairobi, and you're still saying long live Pan-African. That is Dr. Matsanga. He just left to just take care of something very shortly, but he'll join back. So just keep it here. And John Clark, you're saying Tim Kinua Mgongo of Oparanya. Kinua Mgongo. What? Okay, that is for the governors, I think. Abdisamad Ali, good morning to you. Godi Onyewumbu, good morning to you. So I was just going through James Mabut joke also, good morning. Ekene Christian, thank you so much. Thank you for joining. So I was just going through the news making headlines, in Africa this morning. And of course, I started with Uganda. And now Bobi Wine has said he will actually be on the ballot in the elections in Uganda in 2021. Remember, after he'd shown interest, of wanting to run for the presidency of Uganda, the Ugandan government has not given him, any break, and they've been after him every waking day. And remember, earlier this year, they even took him to court over a charge that happened last year. They say he incited a protest last year in July, but they saw it best to arrest him earlier. Was it in February or March, thereabout? And he was arrested and he spent 2 days in jail. And after a mass protest, and the level of, attention, his arrest was, getting not just in Uganda, but across the world. I think that everything Museveni's administration has been trying to do in terms of curtailing his ambition in running for the presidency of that country, or curtailing, his freedom to criticize even the government, has only worked to give Bobi Wine, more attention, and not just in Uganda, but even across international media. I saw him having a very interesting interview in CNN a few months ago. So everything that, Museveni has been doing has been his own undoing, and has given Bobi Wine a lot of leeway and a lot of attention across the world. So he said that he will run for presidency come 2021. Remember, I don't know if the Ugandan government has already lifted a ban over him. He was told not to perform. Remember, Bobi Wine, that is his artistic name. His real name is, Robert Changilanyi Sentamu. but he has been an artist. That is how he's been earning his keep. He's been a singer. He is revered across East African countries, especially here in Kenya. His songs are played across all the FM stations and all the TV stations, the music shows. So he is a force to reckon with when it comes to music across East Africa. So that has been his venue of getting money before he even became a member of parliament. So the government, since December last year, banned his performance because he was supposed to perform over the new year 2018 coming to 2019, but the government refused. So since then, I think they've stopped him. I don't think he's been performing in any of his concerts because when he was being released from jail, I think one of the conditions was he should not be in the middle of a crowd, and that was supposed to be not more than 3 people with him. So more than 3 people was considered a crowd. So essentially, the government, told him, you cannot continue with performing as an artist. So now he continues, I think, to get some royalty money from the music he's done, I think, and also as a member of parliament. But, he's come out and said, yes, he will contest the elections come last year. And also sometimes this year, they went into a deal with, I call him the long-suffering opposition leader there in Uganda. And they agreed to work together. But since then, nothing much has come out of that agreement. Perhaps they're still working on the modalities. Perhaps they're still agreeing on who will actually be the flag bearer should they agree to form a coalition, and because they had not come till that point of even forming a coalition and working together. They just say they have an agreement, they will work together, but no official, a signing or agreement has been made public. So maybe they're still working on the modalities. Maybe they're still finding structures by which they will work together. So we don't know yet. And now that Bobi Wine has said, you know what? Ugandans should expect to have his name on the ballot box come 2021 elections. I don't know where that will leave Besigye, because Besigye, one, he's considered much older. He has suffered in this, in politics in Uganda. And I don't know if he will agree to be the second in command after Bobi Wine. Because we would expect, Besigye will be the flag bearer, and perhaps Bobi Wine will be his deputy president. I don't know. But Bobi Wine has come out and said, you know what, Ugandans expect my name to be on the ballot come 2021. But, as we say here in politics, even 1 week is a lot of times. Politicians change their minds every other day. So perhaps they would have agreed, him and Besigye would have agreed on the modalities of how to form a coalition and a partnership, and perhaps other, opposition figures also in Uganda would perhaps join, and they'll form one huge opposition movement that will perhaps help in getting President Museveni out of power, because that is their aim. And yesterday, when I was reading the news here, we saw the changes that President Museveni made in the top leadership of police. So instead of appointing policemen who have always, been at the helm of all these police institutions, the president instead brought in army officers to be the head of these police, institutions. So that also critics saw as an opportunity. President Museveni is really setting himself up and getting ready for the elections in 2021. So he just wants to make sure that this, especially the important security apparatus in Uganda, are only bestowed and are in the hands of people he perceives to be loyal towards him. And there have been arguments that Uganda has increasingly become a militarized state. And even after he made that move of appointing army officers to head police institutions, human rights watch groups came out and said, now you're really taking us to a militarized state. And they were not very amused by these appointments that President Museveni made there over the weekend. He made 2 weeks ago. And so that is that then Uganda, Bobi Wine, whose real name is Changulanyi, has said he will continue he will contest Uganda's presidential elections come 2021. The wars continue for former president of South Africa, Jacob Zuma. I remember starting yesterday, he's been, in front of an inquiry into a corruption allegation that he's saying now he has become a victim of character assassination, and this is the making of his political opponents. This is according to Jacob Zuma. So he's saying he's really done nothing wrong. Remember, under his tenure and in the 9 years he was in power in South Africa, really corruption flourished in South Africa, and right now there has been has been taken to court, and an inquiry has been formed to look into corruption, especially his ties with the Gupta family that really vandalized South Africa's economy almost to its knees. And of course, they've since fled from South Africa. I think they're back in India, but that is what is happening. So today he goes, I think the second day, his inquiry, he'll be giving his testimony, and he'll be, they'll be seeking answers from him for the next, I think all of this week, from Monday to Friday. So he still has a couple of days to go. But from yesterday's hearing, as I was watching Al Jazeera in the morning, before I left the house, I saw while the inquiry was continuing, a lot of ANC downed men and women were out there with Jacob Zuma's face on their T-shirts, were outside the building where Jacob Zuma was being queried, and they were protesting, and they were saying, this is just a political gimmick. These are just politicians who have conspired to smear the good name of the former president, Jacob Zuma. I do not understand where these people have been living, because they has even been evidence he used state money to build the huge mansion that he did in his hometown. And he has several wives, so he has made sure they live a very good life. And fortunately, much of the money he used to even build these different houses he has was from the public accounts. And there are evidence to provide, to support that. But, they were out there supporting. I think it is our people syndrome that is really killing us Africans. When a person does wrong, we should allow the process of the law to just take its course. And if he goes through the inquiry and they find out that he had nothing to do with whatever was happening and he's acquitted, then well and good. If not, then he should be able to, to face the music by himself. At the end of the day, as much as he was, you are his supporter, you loved him, I don't think a lot of these supporters really benefit much from these leaders. They are willing even to die for. So yesterday they were chanting and singing and praising him and all that, and singing those struggle music that Jacob Zuma himself loves to sing and dance to, outside where the inquiry was taking place. And just another quick interesting fact. Remember, if you've been following this, then you know that Jacob Zuma already had a music deal earlier in the year. Yes, so he's actually an artist now. He got a recording deal from another music production in his hometown, that is in KwaZulu-Natal. So right now he's supposed to go there. I don't know if he's already recorded the struggle songs that he loves singing and dancing to. So they offered him, a recording deal. And that was also met with a lot of criticism, especially from, Julius Malema. He said, come on, he's a politician. He stole enough from this country. There are many budding musicians, even from KwaZulu-Natal itself. Can we just find somebody else to offer that deal? But, there it is. That is Jacob Zuma for you. So the inquiry is on its second day today. And as I said earlier there, the former president has come out to say he is just a victim of character assassination. So let's just see how the inquiry will play out for him there, even as they continue with it. And we go to Sudan, where yesterday's cause of demonstrators in Sudan took to the streets in Khartoum district to protest against the killing of a civilian allegedly by paramilitaries in the previous day. Remember, this paramilitary group led by, Hamedi Dagalo, the Sudan Rapid Force, the Janjaweed. For me personally, I think they're criminals, because the army, as we know them here in Kenya, by the time an army is deployed in a place, perhaps out due to security reasons, then it's really the last resort, because army is not just people you deploy somewhere. And even if they are deployed, their main mandate is normally to protect lives. you know, except in a few cases. We've seen that even in our own country here, the army met a lot of, came in by force, especially in regards to the cases in the Kenyan coast. Remember when we had a group that wanted to secede and were insisting the Kenyan coast is not part of, Kenya. And also there's another militia at a place called Saboti here in Mount Elgon in Kenya, where the army had to be deployed because they were terrorizing the residents in that area. So a few cases that you've seen the Kenyan army being deployed to go there and try to restore security. But in this case, you find that this Rapid Sudan force is just ridiculously killing people and maiming people. And just the other day, there was a report that they're actually still doing that in Darfur. And I was just talking here with Dr. Matsanga and saying, is Hemedi, or Degalo, as he is he's famously known, not preparing for a charge sheet for himself? Because this was the International Human Rights Watch group that had given out this report over the murders that are still happening and the human rights abuses that are still happening in Darfur that are under the watch of the Sudan Rapid Forces. So it's crazy. Agota one, you're saying Dr. David Matanga needs to think about running for position in Uganda. Okay, I'll tell him that when you return. And you used to say that Bobby Wine will have trouble winning the elections in Uganda. Yes, I also think as well. And you're saying Janjaweed are criminals for sure. They are I don't know, and they're the ones who have also have been deployed in Yemen, and they're fighting alongside the military from Saudi Arabia and the UAE. They're fighting the Yemenis, and the Yemen is being helped by Iran. So that's why they were needed, and that's what has advised that strong coalition between Sudan and the UAE and Saudi Arabia. I explained here yesterday, it's a long story. But anyway, yes, so Janjaweed is fighting over there right now, so it's not a very good thing. So yesterday, there was a protest yesterday in Khartoum over the killing on Sunday that happened. One civilian was killed during a protest that happened on Sunday. So riot police on Monday night, that was yesterday night, looked on as the crowd, waved Sudanese flags. So the riot police did not do anything, just sat there and saw, and the Sudanese waved flags and chanted revolutionary slogans. And in the capital's eastern districts of Buri. So, and that place has been the center of the demonstrations that first erupted in Khartoum in Sudan. There, it started in December, remember. And in Madagascar, of course, the team is back. And they performed fairly well, more than anybody, was expecting. So they were given the highest rank of the night. In the Malagasy National Order, it's like, the commendations given by the president. The team also was given a cash award, according to an online newspaper. So President Andre, Rajolina received the Madagascar national football team, who performed fairly well in the ongoing, I think the finals. When are the finals supposed to be happening? I'm not sure the date. I'm not such a huge football fan, but I'm aware we are, had the finals is what is remaining now between, is it Algeria and Senegal, if I'm not wrong, I think. If I'm not wrong. Okay. and I'll just leave there. That is how far my knowledge of football goes. So anyway, Madagascar performed very well, and they received the king's welcome when they were returning home. And the president himself was there to receive them. And also the Ugandan team also did very well. And we saw them being invited into, a state house by President Yoweri Museveni, and they were promised cash. I don't know what happened to our team. I don't know if I think they should be back in the country. I have no idea, but they were not received very well, the Kenyan team. That is because perhaps they did not perform as well as we expected them to perform in the almost concluding Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt. Yes. So anyway, there's a report that shows that hunger is really almost 820 million people worldwide not getting enough food. And yesterday, I think there was a report in one of the Kenyan, TV stations. I think it was the Nation TV stations during the 9 p.m. news as we were watching, and a place called Baringo here in Kenya. One of the kids family was suffering from severe malnutrition, and the child, I think, skin was scaling off. It was a terrible sight to look at, and I felt very sad, and hopefully the government can intervene and do something, man. I mean, those are images we should not be seeing coming from Kenya. It is 2019, people. Come on. Seriously. Even the leadership of that county should be ashamed of themselves. And in Rwanda, Rwanda has added more personnel at the border between Goma in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Gisenyi in the Rwandan part. That is because of the threat of Ebola. Remember, a new case was discovered in Congo, so Rwanda is just taking safety measures there to make sure no Ebola passes inside to its border. So that is a good measure. And in Nigeria now, this is something I really wanted to talk about. So now, gunmen have abducted Beauty Siasi. This is the 75-year-old mother of Nigerian national football coach Samson Siasi. And in a village known as in the Bayelsa state in the northern part of Nigeria. Abduction of people in Nigeria has become a booming business. And I think watching a documentary on the BBC about the same, abduction of people in Nigeria has become like it's the in thing right now. They just abduct you, put you somewhere, and demand for ransom. So that is what has been happening. And remember also this current Super Eagles captain, Obi Mikel, and forward Samuel Kalu, their parents have also been abducted in the same manner, and they've had to part with a lot of money, for them for their kids to be brought back to them. So this, outside of the threat of Boko Haram, now we have the abduction as another trade that is booming in Nigeria. I mean, something needs to be done. So they broke in the house through the back of the door of her apartment, and they got her. They grabbed Mrs. Siasi, and he said they had not heard from the kidnappers and have reported the incident to the police. So nobody knows her whereabouts. That is the mother of the Nigerian Super Eagles coach. His mother has been abducted, and this is not the first time. Abduction is something that has been happening in Nigeria, and in the recent past, it continues to increase, and now it is posing a security threat. They just abduct you, put you somewhere, and demand money from your friends and family. I think it's ridiculous, and it's getting out of control. And the government, this is something that the Nigerian governments need to pay attention to very, very keenly, because it's going out of hand. And I have mentioned here earlier, even Nigerian captain right now, Obi Mikel, his parent was abducted, and also Samuel Kalu, his parent, was also abducted, and they parted with a lot of money for their people to be able to come back to them. So that is also something that is worrying there, and that is really gaining momentum from Nigeria. And so that is that. So we go to Zambia. And of course, President Edgar Lungu has fired her finance minister on Sunday, and without no reason at all. And he has appointed one of the former Zambian, central bank chief, deputy central bank chief, to that position. So no reason was given, no information for the firing of the former Zambia finance minister, and Margaret Mwanakatwe. That was her name. So she was fired on Sunday, but no explanation was given by the President Edgar Lungu there. That is in Zambia. And now there are fears that Zambia's Konkola copper mines, one of the biggest employers in Zambia, is looking for a new investor, and they're seeing as though the Zambians are seeing as though the government is trying to prepare them in regards to having Chinese come over and take over the biggest employer of the country, that is the Zambia's Konkola copper mines there. And so there has been suggestions that China is poised to, being the biggest Zambia's creditor, is poised to take over this company. See how it's very strategic. China is slowly taking over Africa without even us knowing it. I mean, should it be a point for us to worry? And Africans, I don't know. I don't know when we'll wake up to the reality of, we left our colonizers, we get our independence, but now we are willingly putting ourselves into a we are being colonized, a neo-colonialism that is not really helping us much. Our hands are tied because Zambia's, China being Zambia's biggest creditor, China will not sit and just hope another country will come over and take over the biggest employer in that country. They would want to come in and, get their hands in that. So that is how we get into trouble. And we lose ourselves every other day by, putting ourselves in such positions. And what else is happening? Of course, inflation in Zimbabwe is it's going on in a faster rate, and food itself, the prices has gone up by 252%. I don't even know how Zimbabweans survive in that country, honestly. Can you imagine if a packet of milk, we are buying it right now here at, is it 55 shillings or 60, depending on where you're buying it from, and it went high by 256%. That will be crazy. That even milk will become a luxury, I think. So that is what is happening there in Zimbabwe. So Zimbabwe has been plunged to years of financial problems, after former President Robert Mugabe fell out with the West over some very drastic measures he took when his ambitious, land reclamation program that saw him at loggerheads with a lot of Britain's, with a lot of countries from the West, especially Britain and others. And the sanctions, the years of sanctioning, remember, Zimbabwe is one of the most sanctioned, countries in the world, and that really crippled the country's economy, and they're just trying to reel out of, but it has become very difficult. And President Mnangagwa, since he's coming to the office, has not had a very sweet time being the president of that country. If it's not teachers protesting, then it's the university dons protesting. Remember, just was it 2 months ago thereabout, the lecturers and the professors from the University of Zimbabwe had come out to say, what, because we're not being paid well, so perhaps there should only be classes perhaps 3 times a week. And that is like the biggest university in Zimbabwe, So it is really tough times there in Zimbabwe, and our prayers as, Pan-Africa channel is we just wish them well, and we hope that things can get back on track, because the end of the day is the citizen of Zimbabwe, the ones who can't even afford 1 meal in a day, that get affected. So we can only wish and hope that things get better for Zimbabwe, regardless of who is the president. But of course, even the presidency now is being contested. The opposition leader has refused, to accept that he lost in the last elections. So there are a lot of political dynamics there that are also giving the president extra headache. And he has arrested some activists. He's saying, plotting, to remove him from power. And just over the weekend, last week, I think he arrested an opposition figure who made a very careless statement of a rally a week ago, and they were saying that if President, from the clip that was circulating online, they were saying that if President Mnangagwa things do not change, the MDC will actually go to the State House and get him out, physically. So that got him into trouble, and I think he's in police custody as we speak right now, if I'm not wrong. So that is that. And also Mozambique is set to have for the first time a woman on the ballot, and as they prepare to go to the polls later on in October this year, to vote for the president. Okay. And yes, so that is just the latest here. So I'll just take a very short break, and when I come back, we will continue with more news, and perhaps we'll dive into what is happening in Kenya this morning, even as we wait for Dr. Matsanga to return. But right now, let me take a water break, and then we'll be back in a short bit. Please don't go too far.
Fellow Africans, every time we are challenged on matters of importance, there is always a path for redemption. The only thing that Kenya needs at the moment is redemption. is a redemption strategy that can create a coexistence of all the people, all the tribes, all regions, and all shades of opinions. Challenges come at an hour where a country is on a test. Test runs are always the most crucial points. That's where experiments collapse. Kenya is not an experiment. Kenya is a nation that has existed for 56 years. The challenges, therefore, should not make us hate each other. These challenges should unite us, should unite the people of Kenya to push forward an agenda to follow their president, President Uhuru Kenyatta, in delivering the agenda for a better Kenya. A better Kenya will produce a better East Africa. A better East Africa will produce a better Africa. The challenges, the obstacles that come amongst us are many, but we can overcome them through discussion, a wider range of discussion, wider disagreements to agree and disagree, to agree again and disagree to disagree. But we should not form clubs, units, militias, hatred of that nature that can take us to the history. Germany today is Germany because it doesn't want to go to the path of the history. Germany goes to the path of development. Over 70 years ago, Germany was at war with the entire world. Today, it is on the path of resolving some of the problems that come. I want us to stand in the place of Germany and look forward and backwards. See what we can do here, but not yearn for what is in Rome. What is in Rome is safeguarded, but in Sicily, which is Kenya, we need to build a foundation for the younger generation that we are going to live here today. The many who have no employment, the poverty, the ignorance, the diseases that kill the people of Africa. We need to find a modium of operation. Modus operandi. The only modus operandi on this is a united, peaceful Kenya. A Kenya united by values of respect and adherence to the rule of law. A Kenya without schemes of elimination or fiction of elimination or murders written by themselves. A Kenya without any hatred against the president. A Kenya that supports the constitutional roots that the 2010 constitution of yours brought. That is how Africa will rise and shine again. Thank you.
All right, welcome back. This is Good Morning Africa. We're just on our last, minutes on the show. We started with Dr. Matanga, but something came up very urgently that he had to take care of. And so thank you so much for keeping it here. God Wanya, thank you so much. And here you said, that this is what is happening in Sudan with Janjaweed militias. It was plan B to Bashir in case something happened, and that what exactly occurred. General Hemeti has only 6 primary school. You're saying grade 6 primary school education, and former donkey trader, and also came from where those in Khartoum called can't lead them. Oh, we have such here, and the bomb will explode since in Khartoum because those who call themselves Arabs will fight him. And I think those who call, yes, they were behind, President, Bashir. So you're saying those who call themselves Arabs will fight him. So, I mean, Sudan is a ticking time bomb indeed, and we can only hope that the modalities and the structures that have been put in place when they're working towards a transition to a civilian government will hold. We do not want another problem there. We are still trying to contain things in South Sudan. And yesterday, if you're watching the show, I don't know if you're watching a good one, not former, but Vice President of South Sudan, he is in Khartoum right now, Riek Machar, wrote to President Salva Kiir and said he is willing to come and talk with him in Juba, and so that they can start implementing the peace process, because he is worried, and he raised concerns that 2 months after they were allowed an extension of 6 months for structures to form a unity government, nothing has really happened in the first 2 months of the 6 months that they were given. So while he was writing to President Salva Kiir, he said he's worried and he's willing now to return to Juba. But if a few of his conditions are met, and that is if his security is guaranteed, and as well as if the ban, Machar has been banned, he can't visit any IGAD country, and he cannot, that includes Kenya and any other country under IGAD. And also he has been put under house arrest. So he was saying if house arrest, ban can be lifted and he can be allowed to travel to a lot of other IGAD countries. Perhaps he's looking for allies and other country support to help him, to back him, even in the peace process talks. So he's willing to return. So that is a good news. So we are still trying to contain and to help in the fragile peace process in South Sudan. So we do not want any more problems from Sudan. But as it continues as it is right now, I am not sure what will happen, because as much as they agreed on the 3 years, transfer of power, the 3 years, transition period, 21 months for the military council and 18 months for, the protest or the civilian side for ruling. 21 months is far off. Perhaps 1 month is already nearly gone, but we'll see. We'll see if they will even be willing to relinquish power to the civilian part, and then civilians will take over after that, and now they can work on really finding on elections from then on. So when you say that the Arabs will fight him, I think Hemedi is dancing to the tune of Saudi Arabia, and also the Saudi Arabia as well as UAE, and because right now he is in charge of course, the rapid force which is fighting in Yemen, and which is very helpful for these two states. And so he's seeing what happened after Omar al-Bashir fell out with these two countries, refusing to agree on them on a few matters that costed him his presidency. Because if you have the knowledge of what really transpired that led to President Omar al-Bashir being ousted out of powers, Saudi Arabia and UAE has a huge hand in that, and they're also the sponsors of the protests, as it has shown, So on that background, I think he's trying to trade very carefully, and it is clear that he's dancing to the tune of these two countries that came in even after ousting of President Bashir. Remember, there was a delegation from the UAE, from Saudi Arabia, that came to Khartoum immediately, and guess what? One of the former trusted ministers in Omar al-Bashir's government that later, defected, was fired and immediately fled to Saudi Arabia and was given citizenship in Saudi Arabia. He was the one now leading the talks back between Saudi Arabia and Sudan. It's just ridiculous. So while we're here grappling with trying to make sure that Sudan does not go, this Libyan way, or, a banana republic, really. We do not want that to happen in Sudan. because that will be another problem for not just the Sudanese, innocent Sudanese who will be caught up in this, but also the rest of us, neighboring countries who now have to take up the issue of, refugees and things like that. Because when a war happens in a country, not only that country is affected, the price tag of a civil war is ridiculous. And it affects not the country, but the rest of the surrounding countries, and especially the citizens of that country that get displaced, others die in the process. And as you see in the case of South Sudan, as you see in the case of Amazonia, as you see in the case of Biafra, as you see in the case of Democratic Republic of Congo. Over the weekend on Sunday, I think, after we left here for the Africa Showdown, I went someplace and I was having a conversation. I was having my manicure, and my manicurist was a young Congolese man, and I was just talking, and he's very political. I realized he has a sense of what is happening in his country, and I asked him, so how long have you been in Kenya? He said, for 3 years. I said, and why did you, I'm curious, why did you leave DRC? Your country is very rich. And he said, yes, our country is very rich in both gold and other things, and he mentioned and he talked, and he said, but the Belgians and the French will not let us be at peace, and our leadership has conspired and all that, and you could see the sadness in his face, and really it hit home, because he has now to travel all the way to Kenya to try and earn a living while he's coming from. I asked him, do you know that your country actually is so wealthy that it can finance all these money problems Africa has as a continent, because the resources DRC is endowed with is a lot. It's immense, and so and he said, yes, I know, I come from a very rich country, but now look at us, look at what is happening. Many of our Congolese are dying because of the wealth that we have in that country. So it was a very interesting conversation I had with this young man from the DRC. So we do not want Sudan to go that route. I mean, a civil war is the last thing we'd wish to happen in Sudan, because the rest of us will have to, suffer the consequences of that. So even as the different players continue to pull strings, I don't think they understand what is at stake. And Africa, we've seen civil wars firsthand. We do not want that to go there. So, I second your point there, Agot. And you're saying East Africa must be reformed and focus on better Africa. Well, East African community is having its own problems. Remember, many heads of states now, different countries and heads of states are not agreeing at all in. They're having their own squabbles. We're seeing Rwanda now and Uganda since February this year. But that was just something that was, seeming very slowly. And they've already been having problems from the past. But it just came to the fore earlier this year in February. But last week when they were meeting in Angola, I think the Angolan president, Yao, called them over and wanted to just have a conversation with these two countries. And President Museveni and President Kagame agreed, we'll work on finding a solution to the problems that the two countries are facing now, because the rest of us are getting affected, who are using the route, who are traveling to these countries, through these countries, who are, having to trade, or we're having businesses, and people are getting affected. So they're finding peace. So East African community has its own problems, and just the other day an audit report came out and said that a lot of money is being plunged and being misappropriated in the East African Community Secretariat, and now they are not even able to pay for salaries of the people working there, and also just day-to-day running of the activities of the Secretariat is becoming increasingly difficult, because some countries are not able to give their contribution, and the contribution that has been given sometimes do not come in time, and the one that has been remitted is being misappropriated. So East African community, we have a long way to go in terms of even achieving this unity and work as a bloc. We still have a lot of things that we need goodwill, especially from the leadership, to make sure that we achieve this. So that is a problem. So yeah, it will be nice to just focus on some reforms in East Africa. I think it will be good, because I think East Africa really come together and focus on certain things that are important. We will be a force to reckon with, not just in Africa, but even outside. Remember, just the other day, I think 2 weeks ago, ECOWAS, the member states, 15 member states of ECOWAS, signed a pact, and they're saying they will have their own currency, which will be known as members ECO come 2020, and a lot of countries, they are excited to have this. It will be like the euro in Europe, so they'll have their own currency ECO. So let's just see how that will work for the members of ECOWAS, and maybe East African community can borrow a thing or two in terms of unity of purpose from those West African states. So let's just hope and see if that will happen. And you're saying, why can't African countries be economic independent? Yes, because of the different, interests in different countries, and for some selfish reasons as well, I believe. So it's becoming increasingly difficult, because if should they come together and be an economic independent and countries, like say ECOWAS, of course they had their modalities and how they work on achieving a single currency. But also here in East Africa, remember we had the East African community had signed a deal with the EU on a business deal and an economic deal but Tanzania pulled out. They were very hesitant in signing into, but now the EU, I think, I was just reading that news here yesterday, came out and said, yes, we still want to go ahead with this, and East African community would seem to benefit from this deal, but we need all of you on board. Apparently Tanzania had gone by itself to try to make part of this deal between itself and the EU, but they said no, we need you as a bloc, we need to trade with you as a bloc, because it was a trade deal. So economic independence in Africa is achievable, but do we have the leaders who are willing really to make sure that this is their goal, even in the different states we have here in Africa? Do we have leaders who have the citizens at heart and interests of their country at heart and are working really to better the lives of their people? We lack leadership. Africa has a vacuum of leadership. All we have are rulers, people who are corrupt, people who come to power to just make money. In the Western world, you don't go to civil service or public service to accumulate wealth, because there's not much money there. If you want to go to school, become something else, but not a public servant, because it's not considered as a career that you'd make a lot of money. You're going there to serve. But here it is the opposite. They come here. When you're seeing what our leaders here in Kenya have been wanting, even the legislators, a lot of allowances, 17 more allowances they want to be increased and to be given back, and they need that in their pockets. It's a lot of money that will cost a lot of Kenyan payers a lot of money and sweat and blood to pay them that. So it's ridiculous. We don't have leaders who have our interest at heart. So in the Kenyan situation, I was even wondering. So they're saying, okay, now, the people, when we go back to the villages, the people demand for kickbacks. When somebody dies, they want us to buy them a coffin. When this happens, this and this. So they're giving all these excuses as to justify why they need this extra money. But also my point has always been, while you're being elected, you're very clear on the salary that you will be receiving. So now all of a sudden you realize, oh no, this is not something you can work with, and now you want more money. I think it's ridiculous. And should they be allowed to have this money, I think will be setting a very bad precedence. So anybody coming into public service, they'll manipulate the institutions that are responsible for even taking care of their salaries, and so it will be ridiculous. So we will allow even the people who are thinking to come into public service to imagine that, when we come there, we are going to manipulate the law, we are going to have our way, we are going to have more money and more allowances and things like that. So I don't think this should be allowed to happen. And so that is the crisis, and that is the problem that we find ourselves in here in Africa. So we lack leadership, and that's why even achieving things like economic independence becomes a fairy tale. And it's very sad, if you just sit and study African history and just study Africa economic, situations in the different countries. We are blessed with immense natural wealth that we could use to our advantage and uplift the lives of, uplift our lives. But that has not been the case, because we lack a leadership that has that vision, and that is a problem that is cutting across majority of the states here in Africa. So Yes, Dr. Matsanga. I think the rest of the George Soros topic, and is George Soros money disrupting peace in Africa? That is, I think, is a topic that will take place at the People's Court at 4 p.m. Dr. Matsanga, we had some evidence here and something that he really wanted to talk about, so I'll just leave it at that for him. At 4 p.m. we'll have the People's Court, and he will talk about that. But we were looking at what was just happening across Africa, and we looked at what is happening in Uganda. Of course, Bobi Wine has said he'll come to challenge President Museveni in elections in 2021. And also in South Africa, Jacob Zuma's inquiry continues over the corruption allegations that really marred his tenureship during his time as a president of South Africa, 9 years. And President Cyril Ramaphosa came out over the weekend and said, you know what, that was a wasted 9 years of South Africans. Yes, Cyril Ramaphosa said that. And so we looked at that. And also Sudan, there was a demonstration yesterday over the killing of a demonstrator over the weekend. And so the demonstrators they held their demonstrations yesterday. The Madagascar's national football team is back from AFCON, and they were welcomed by the president himself. And, back to Madagascar, and so President Andre Rajoelina, in the state palace, Ravoloha State Palace in the country's capital, Antananarivo, there in Madagascar. And of course, an alarming report there from United Nations Food Report there. And now 820 people, million across the world, are facing starvation and do not have enough food. And of course, in Mozambique, there will be a woman presidential candidate for the first time, and the elections are expected to take place in October. And of course, Nigeria, the alarming increase of abductions. It has become now another trade and another way that criminals are finding ways to making money. They just abduct you. And the latest person to have been abducted is the mother of Nigeria's national football team, Siasi. She was abducted over the weekend. She's 75 years old, and nobody has since known her whereabouts. So abductors, normally they would abduct and then demand for money for some ransom to release your person. So that is what is happening. And also, Zambian president fired his finance minister without explanations. That happened over the weekend. And Samuel Lay, you're saying Africa is under somebody's rule, Mr. Good. Samuel, who is this person? Tell us. Who is this person? And I think you just answered that and said indeed, and that somebody will be apprehended soon, so the continent move on. You think, I hear this person is in the, he has a lot of control across the world, but I'll leave that to Dr. Matsanga. But I will be interested to know who this person is. Please enlighten me. So now another news here that really caught my eye in the Kenya newspapers, that is the Star newspaper here on page 8, and it says senators seek a 2 billion Kenya shillings fund to monitor counties' operations. Like, this is extreme madness. So now senators also want their kitty money to be given to monitor counties' operations. Like, seriously. When will it ever stop? Let me just read this before I even get into it. I get personal with it. So it says, senators could soon get their way in their push for 2 billion Kenya shillings county oversight fund to monitor the financial operations of the devolved units. Now, the lawmakers have developed a bill which, if passed, will see them allocated the money in the budget by the National Assembly for oversight of counties. The County Oversight and Accountability Bill 2018 seeks to give the senators immense powers to monitor how governors utilize the billions sent to devolved funds. According to the bill, senators will be the overall persons mandated with the oversight role and shall establish oversight offices complete with technical staff to effectively monitor the operations of the county. Like, what in the world is going on here in Kenya? It's like our leaders just sit down and think, okay, so now how else can we get more money from Kenyans? Okay, now we need this type of fund set up. Now we need an extra. Like, what is really happening? So now senators are seeking for a 2 billion Kenya shillings fund to help them in their work as an oversight. The Senate here in Kenya, its main mandate is oversight in the counties, which they have failed miserably. And I saw somebody in the papers here, of course, the Star. This is the headline in the Star newspaper this afternoon, and it's saying MPs want to get rid of 47 women rep. While they plan to do that, can they also plan to remove the senatorial seat? Because I don't even know its work here in Kenya anymore. It has failed in its work to oversight the county government, And while we were seeing the other day the senators, grilling the governors, it became a very personal. So if one of the senators' governor came before the committee and they were being interviewed, you could see they were becoming very personal, because some of these senators have ambitions of becoming governors, in the next elections. So in that, they've been caught up in that political madness, and they have forgotten their job as, the county's oversight, and they have failed to do that. So now they want 2 billion Kenya shillings. That is ridiculous. I don't know, but apparently there's a bill that was prepared in 2018, and it's just awaiting, I don't know, to be assented to. It's ridiculous. So Kenya, that is just the news from Kenya today. And also, as I mentioned earlier there, I think let's just look at the Standard, page 10. The DCI and the DPP are in Dubai today. Yes, it's a short read here. Please bear with me. I love getting the details, and let's just see what this is about. So here, on the Standard, page 10, it says, a team of top security officials is expected in Dubai today in the ongoing investigations into the stalled 65 billion Kenya shillings Aror and Kimorel dams in Elgeyo Marakwet County. Now, the team is also planning a series of meetings with authorities in Dubai over the fake gold scams on the rise in Kenya. Sources said Director of Public Prosecutions Nurdin Haji, Director of Criminal Investigations George Kinoti, and officials from the State Law Office will be seeking mutual agreements on how to enhance the dam's probe. Officials said the team had obtained evidence showing how part of the money paid by Treasury for construction of the dams ended up in private accounts. A part of it would later be withdrawn from Nairobi. So the DCI and DPP there are busy, and they're trying to get to the bottom of what is happening. And you remember they were in Italy, I think, on the same matter. They're still probing, the 65 billion Kenya shillings that has been reported lost, that was supposed to go into the digging of Aror and Kimorel dams here, and that was to help, especially in President Kenyatta's Big Four agenda in terms of food security, because with dams with proper money, enough water would have helped in irrigation, and that's really some of the driving factors that are supposed to contribute to the Big Four agendas and in the food security agenda for President Uhuru Kenyatta. So this acted as a huge setback. So the DCI and the DPP are on it. Bismarck Bura, nice to see you. Today you're late, but it's good that you've joined. Dr. Matsanga was here earlier, but he left. He had to really take care of something very, very quickly. But he'll be here at 4 p.m. on the People's Court, and he will look at George Soros' money disrupting peace in Africa. I was just reading some news, and remember, during even last elections, he is believed to be the biggest financier of former presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. Yes, he gave Hillary Clinton's campaign camp a lot of money, and he was her biggest financier during the presidential elections they held years ago. So does his money cause chaos and disrupt a lot of things in Africa? So that is something that Dr. Matsanga will be looking at. And also, some information I saw earlier. Maybe let me just look at that before we conclude. You're about to get down on the show, but just a moment here. The BBI team has come out to deny a premier's post. That is The Nation, page 5. Let's just look at that quickly. And here it says, the Building of Bridges Initiative Task Force yesterday fought off reports that it had recommended a referendum to create a position of an executive prime minister. Addressing the press in Nairobi, a BBI chairperson and Garissa Senator Yusuf Haji said the task force was yet to sit and compile its report as it was still collecting views from the public with 8 counties left, and which will be done by August. So there were reports yesterday from Kenya's newspaper. I don't know where they got that report from over the weekend, that the Building of Bridges Initiative had decided, and one of their proposals was to have a prime minister with executive powers, actually, and who will also be the head of government functions, I think, in parliament. And they've come out and said no. And that is according to their chair, Yusuf Haji there. Yusuf Haji is the father of, DPP Nordin Haji. He is a renowned public service servant. He served during the time of former President Moi. And he was... He held the position of provincial commissioner then when we had the 8 provinces. I hear he was no joke. He led very firmly. So there you go. He said no. The BBA has not even compiled its report yet because they have until, October to give the report. So they were just going across the country and trying to get views from some stakeholders and Kenyans and different politicians and different organizations as to, the recommendations when it comes to, sustainable peace in this country. So they say they're yet to, compile their report. So they do not understand why they are being cited as having proposed that Kenya should have a prime minister's post with, executive power. So they've not even mentioned that, really. So we are waiting for the report with bated breath here. Remember, the BBI, has caused a lot of ruffles. It has not been very welcome, especially from some political quarters in this country. It is seen as a way to allow somebody to get power through the back door, and that is according to the other side of the political divide. So very interesting times here in Africa. And indeed in Kenya. Samuel Leyo saying Africa will become free when Sister Miriam Ogotu become the first African president. No. I do not want to be a politician. Forget being a president. I want to be effective just here. When I'm seated here with this microphone, I think I'm doing a very good service to Africa. So let me just do that, Samuel. I don't even have a bone in me that even aspires towards politics, but I like talking about it and knowing what's really happening because it affects my life. It affects how I eat. It affects how I stay. It affects my security. It affects how my child goes to school. So it's important for me, for me to understand and know the politics in my country and across Africa because it affects all of our lives. So it's important. So yes, I think I'm doing just fine with a microphone. For the politics, I'll just leave it for the people who have the political muscle. I do not have that in me at all. So I want to thank you so much for keeping me company. And of course, Dr. Matsanga will be coming back at 4 p.m. East African time with the People's Court. He'll be looking at George Soros and how his influence is affecting Africa and is his money disrupting the peace we enjoy here in Africa. So thank you so much. This has been a Good Morning Africa show all the way from the Kenya's capital. I am Miriam Ogotu. It is bye-bye for now.
The creation of African Continental Free Trade Area is a step forward for the African integration, and it is very much welcome both by Africans in Africa and those in diaspora. The creation of such is the only second one since the formation of World Trade Organization in 1994 and is only compared to the size that can compete if it works in Africa. 1.3 billion people will benefit out of this free trade that has been signed and endorsed by 54 heads of state. After several years of up and down in the valleys of Africa and the mountains of Africa, we finally came to a conclusion that this has to happen, which brings us to the dream of Kwame Nkrumah when he said, at least building a block by block, Africa will one day unite to stand as a united continent. But are the members of this African Union committed? Will they implement what they have decided? Today, in several countries, we see signs of xenophobia, the lack of patriotism amongst the younger generation, the lack of employment, the unemployment, the mistreatment of the young, the youth, those who need jobs, the corruption, the amount of corruption that has eaten the entire continent of Africa could hamper the free trade that we are anticipating on the continent. What measures, therefore, have African heads of state put in place to ensure that those who lag behind, those who drop out, must be penalized? We should not sign the document for the sake of documents, but we should sign documents for practical reasons that we shall implement what Africa needs today. Can it happen in our times? Is it going to happen? Is integration a mirage? Is integration worth going to happen? Will it happen? What has happened about the present blocks that have started integration process? What have they done? Is Africa integrating? Thank you.